All right, so start the recording again, and here we go. All right, I'm actually going to say both your names, and before I did it weird, I did it like I was introducing my co-hosts, so obviously I'll just introduce both. I'll keep rattling on that Anyway, I got it. All right, everybody. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Crypto Basic Podcast. We are going to be discussing Substratum roundtable format today. Those of you who listen to the flagships may remember a couple of flagships ago, 3 flagships ago, we talked about Substratum. I very clearly indicated that it was a scam. I got a lot of that information from work done by Brian Lee, who is joining me today with William McKenzie on this roundtable episode. What's up, guys?
Hey.
How's it going, Brian?
It is awesome. I'm excited to do this episode. I'm ready to go, ready to get into the nitty-gritty of this stuff. What we're going to do today, I'm going to give a little quick intro, but before I get into that, what we're going to do is talk the Substratum scam, and I'm painfully going to take the responsibility of the pro Substratum person and try to ask the questions that the team would have asked. So, why do I have you guys on the show instead of anyone else on the planet? Let's start with Brian.
Well, I've been involved in crypto and blockchain primarily as an investor and a trader since, I don't know, mid-2016. Really got into Substratum, I think, a little after their ICO. So that would be late 2017. And I was really interested in their project because at the time I was running a few websites, and it was just interesting to see a project that was working in the web hosting space. And after looking at their website and briefly reading through their white paper, and back then I really didn't know too much about all of this stuff yet. So the idea sounded really cool to me. So I was a big supporter in the community, I would say, for those 3 to 4 months. And I think after the delay of their first beta, which was kind of marketed as I don't even know how you describe it. It would be like a public beta that was actually private, but it ended up being like an alpha or something. I don't know what it was, but it was kind of a mess.
And they're messing up their Greek numbers or letters.
Yeah. Yeah. So after that, I started getting a bit skeptical, and that's when I started researching networking a bit more, and just kind of seeing the project through someone who's not super financially invested in it.
Okay.
And that led me to write a number of posts over the past year. I think I've probably done more research on Substratum than a lot of people on the internet, because there's really not that much stuff that's written about it, and most of it is just really surface stuff. So it doesn't really it's not really deep, you know.
Okay.
So that's where we are now.
We are
gonna podcast.
We are gonna get into the deep stuff. Obviously, some listeners have heard it, but we will recap it. William, why are you here instead of John McAfee? No, that's too easy. All right, don't say it that way.
Yeah. Well, kind of like Brian, I was heavily involved with Substratum in the early days. I probably first got started around late 2017. I was pretty involved in their community, but I do my own research. I don't listen to what other people's spoon-fed the information like some of the moderators are given from the team to tell people. And just really and truly, I saw it as a fascinating use of blockchain technology and a top project in this space. But probably more specifically, the announcement of the second ICO was kind of where I started to shift my opinion a little bit.
I can actually agree. The first time I ever had Substratum come on our radar was the second ICO. When I started reading about or talking about Justin the first time we talked about him on the show, which was actually almost like 2 months ago, I remember thinking, oh my God, they're the ones that are doing the second ICO. They're the scammy ones that are doing that. And I didn't
When
realize
no other project has had one.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, which is look, that's just such a bad precedent to set. I really hope it's not successful for that reason alone. I don't want every project to be doing ICO number 2. But that is kind of how they came on my radar originally as well. So we are going to get into kind of each and every one of the points. And like I said, I'm going to be in the position of defending them. Before we go into that, I want to talk about my experience last night. I didn't intend to have it, but the moderator of the Substratum Telegram went on and made a negative comment on on our YouTube video, the one that we released about Substratum. He then had everybody in the chat come downvote it, which was kind of funny because we don't get a lot of our listener base from YouTube. We do post some episodes on there, but it was something that we is almost like an afterthought. It shouldn't be. We should have done a better job at upkeeping our YouTube, but we didn't. So it's now like, 4 likes and 40 downvotes or something, and has our second highest view count of all for YouTube, which is great. Thanks for the views, guys. So I went in and I was like, hey, it sounds like you guys want to have a conversation with me. I'm the guy that you're downvoting the video on. Predictably was laughed out of there, told that I should have done my research, that I was a paid fudster, all that, the standard response from any community. There are very few communities that I've said something negative about that have been receptive to that. I will say a community that ended up being a pretty, I think, crappy project in the end, but they Neblio, what they said was now we didn't say they were a scam, we just said we didn't like their project. They said, and this is the best response that I've gotten on a negative thing that I've said, they're only responding to what we put out there as a team. And if that is their perception of what we've put out there, we need to adjust what we've put out there. And that seemed like a pretty reasonable way to look at it to me, which didn't happen in their chat. But again, it hasn't happened in any of the chat. I mean, we talked pretty good overall about VeChain, and I mentioned that I didn't find their white paper, but apparently they had a thing that said specifically on it, this is not a white paper. And I was like, okay, well, they don't have a white paper. I guess I didn't do like 3rd level research and go find it. So they were all in talking about how bad we were. And I'm like, we said good stuff about the project. What are you doing, guys? All right. So past that, I had a pretty poor experience in their chat overall. They laughed me out. I was trying to kind of defend myself. They banned me. Oh, they didn't ban me. They silenced me. I couldn't talk. I got messaged from 2 or 3 different people in the chat that are like, hey, if you don't defend yourself, you look guilty. I'm like, well, I can't. They took away my abilities. And then one of the team members, the CMO, Christian Pope, reached out to me, and he did answer all of my most of my questions that I had. Whether those answers are satisfactory, we'll get into in the episode later. So we should have talked about this before we got in the air, but do you guys want to give me maybe kind of like ping pong back and forth, each give me a reason, and then I will kind of prod you for more information on that reason? Or do you want me to list off the reasons and then you guys talk about them?
Maybe you should list them off.
All right. So
yeah, that'd be a little better.
I will list off what I have talked about so far on the show, and then I will and then you guys can I'll give just a really brief explanation, and then you can expand on that if you can, and then I'll ask some questions as well as give the explanation of the team. Remember, I am playing the pro Substratum. Even though I may not believe that, I will give a final verdict at the end of this episode. So, excuse me. So as I started to remember, I found out about them on the second ICO. We're going to skip that until the end because I feel like that's pretty damning in and of itself. So I went to try to find this fake magazine that they said that that they were on. And the guy who originally posted that had his Medium account banned. I think he might have been banned in like the sweep of the kind of alt-right things that they took off of Medium. I don't know, but his YouTube seems kind of like that. I'm not sure, but he had a link to the magazine that this guy had put himself on the cover of. So I don't know if that's one of the things that you guys popped around, but I thought that was kind of hilarious.
We're talking about the technology headlines, right?
Yeah, he was on the front page of this magazine and was like hashtag humbled on the tweet and that kind of thing. So was that one of the things you popped on in your research?
Yeah, so when I looked into that magazine, it was pretty obvious to me that the quality of it was quite low, just from how their website looks, and just from all of the stuff that was wrong in the post. uh, and let me pull up that post really quickly.
Oh, it's still there. Good. I couldn't find it. I'm so glad you have that.
Well, I actually wrote a post about it on my website, but I'm not
Okay.
sure if the post itself is still on their website. But I did get a few quotes. So I'm not sure who wrote this post actually. I don't know if Substratum like submitted the post, or if the process was they did their own research. But either way, there was a lot of stuff that was wrong. And the weirdest thing that I found was I actually reached out to them, and I told them that my company was interested in being on the front page of their magazine, which I don't even know if it's actually real. And the first response I got back was kind of like, "Oh, we don't do that." So I thought that was the end of it.
Oh, okay.
But the next day, I got another email. I don't know if it was from the same guy that I reached out to, or I don't know if it's from someone else who works there. But they said, no, you can actually pay $6,000, and we'll put you on the front page, and you'll also get 5 copies in your mail. And I was like,
5?
oh, that's 5 copies, which just happens to be the number of copies that Justin posted in his screenshot. I mean, in his pic. Right. So, like, I guess it could be a coincidence, but I don't really believe in coincidences. But if you look at that picture that he posted, there's 5 copies there.
Wow. Okay, make sure you send me that link for the show notes, because I didn't have a way to get back to that. I only had the original article that was pulled down from Leak Guy.
Yeah.
I will say that this is one of the ones that Christian did not address. I asked him about the fake magazine. He said, I don't really know anything about it, but I know that he didn't pay $6,000 like was told. He said that he didn't. You know what? Rather than paraphrase, I'll tell you his exact words about that. 1 second here. Reservations, time horizon. Oh no! Don't worry, I can edit this silence out. Okay. I saw the tweet. I don't know if it was paid or not. The only thing I heard is Justin say that it wasn't true that he paid $6,000 for it. That's all I have. So
Well,
yeah.
I suppose there's no way that we could say that he did or he did not, but it just seems weird to me that it seems like a cheap way or an easy way to get yourself onto the front page of something. It's certainly not the New York Times, or it's not Time, but I see how a front page feature like this could be used to market yourself in a certain way. I'm just saying, I think it's weird that if I were to pay $6,000, I would have also gotten a front page and also 5 copies in the mail. That's just a bit weird to me. I'm just going to leave it at that.
So did you try to negotiate with them?
I did not negotiate with them.
My guess is that $6,000 was an opening offer. So what Christian is telling me is not a lie. They probably didn't pay $6,000 for that.
Yeah.
They probably paid a little bit less. So from the pro Substratum side of this, what I'm going to say is marketing is important to a cryptocurrency. It's important to get their name out there. Is it not acceptable to market in such a way that it looks like you got on the front page of a magazine?
It is acceptable, as long as you make sure all of the facts that are in the post is true. For example, the post said that Substratum was founded in 2017 and that they've built software solutions for companies including Apple, Facebook, Disney, HP, and more. That's not true.
Oh.
So Justin previously worked at a company called Override Pro. And the story is that that company did in fact build software for Apple, Facebook, and all of these other big companies. But to put it in this context where it says Substratum is a US-based software firm which has built solutions for a number of companies, including Apple, Facebook, Disney. That's just fake. That's fake news. And the fact that they didn't reach out to this website to correct those facts kind of suggests some kind of underlying agenda, I think. Like why would you not correct that? It's completely fake.
Okay, so the argument, so the magazine posted that they were like in their front page headline said that they'd work with all those. Okay, so this was, in my opinion, down there on the red flag list anyway. We could, in theory, attribute this to a content group not understanding what they were writing. And we do know that people fudge their resumes. So, not fudge them, but they try to play these things up. Like, for instance, when we talked about Initiative Q on the show and how it was founded by ex-PayPal guys, that means the company was acquired by PayPal. So I guess for a little bit they may have technically worked for PayPal. But yeah, so this is funnier more than it is a red flag to me, because it's like indicative of kind of an ego stroke. But I'm gonna give him a little bit of anyway. Let's move on, I guess.
Well, but here's the thing though, like if you take a look at their website, this is the first version of Substratum's website before their ICO. They actually advertised Apple, Facebook, HP, the NBA, Disney, and Kodak as current or past clients on Substratum's website.
So if you look at it in the Wayback Machine, like you'll see.
Yeah, you can go to like archive.is or something, just one of those sites, and you can type in substratum.net. And if you go back to their website from September 2017, it actually says current and past clients, and it lists all of these companies. So I don't know if during their research they might have stumbled on that website and saw that. But just from Substratum's viewpoint, I think that was just blatant misadvertising, because they didn't do that. Like, if I were going to start a coin now, and I've also worked for Disney in the past, I wouldn't say Disney was my past client. It has nothing to do with my coin right now, you know?
Exactly.
And I would just like to say that there was a project called Titanium. Back in May, they got busted by the SEC for this exact thing, putting up partners on their website that were just not true. So I'm going to leave it at that. And
were they part of that round of letters that was sent out by the New York Attorney General?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that.
I know there are a lot of letters sent out to random ICOs and exchanges and things saying, hey, you need to give us a bunch of information about how you're doing business.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was related to that, but basically this project called Titanium, they advertised that Disney, like the same thing, like Apple were clients or past partners or something like that. And it turned out it was not true. And the SEC basically shut down the whole thing, had them refund people. That's kind of exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, so they took it off their website at some point, correct?
They took it off their website as soon as their ICO concluded, and and they switched to the new version of their website, which does not mention any of these clients. So you would think like crypto right now is in a stage where any kind of affiliation with a company like Facebook or HP would would be a great thing, right? Because there's so many scams out there, and if you truly had partnerships with these big companies, you would leverage that to kind of make yourself seem more real. So the fact that they took down this client list right after their ICO ended, it tells you like explicitly like what the point of it was. It was to draw people in, you know, it into something that was just not true.
And it's sad. Okay, so I think we might see a pattern here as we get to some more of these explanations. But the fact that it happened right after the ICO was concluded is going to be a theme that we're going to have through the rest of this episode. And you know, you can certainly, you know, there's been things that have happened in the past on different coins that you can attribute to maybe somebody on the team not understanding what they are allowed to and not allowed to put on a website. For instance, Walton Chain, when they had their kind of that giveaway that intern won or whatever the case was. Look, that could have been one person going rogue doing something stupid that they shouldn't have done, or they entered the contest legitimately and won. Whatever the case, like, it reflects bad on the company, but you could kind of give them a little bit of forgiveness. But here, we may have precedent for something that was actually illegal, and if it was, that could jeopardize the project. Are they U.S. based?
They are U.S. based,
Yes.
and their ICO was open to U.S. based participants under the explanation that it's simply a utility token, but that doesn't exclude it from it being classified as a security.
Yeah, they happened in like I want to say like August or July or something.
What was that? I think it was September. Their ICO.
So it's
September
right in that transitional
2017.
period when
September
some
17th.
ICOs were still taking U.S. investors and just saying, no, it's cool, we're fine. Because I remember I invested in Spank Chain at the time. And
right, but the interesting thing was after the recent bust of Ether Delta, the SEC did say that any ICOs, well, and this is a statement from their report back in June 2017 after the DAO got hacked and all of their funds were stolen. They were saying like after that report, all companies who are seeking to use blockchain based crowdfunding platform, you know, they have to register with them. So that was back in June 2017. And now it seems like SEC is finally in a place where they've kind of caught up for the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few months.
I think that's going to be super interesting. I didn't even realize that they had done that. So that's something strictly illegal could make. I said a theme would be that we needed to look at the end of the second ICO. Another theme I think in the end of this will be, it could be that this is a company that's run by people who just don't have a lot of experience in the tech space. They don't have a lot of experience with what they're supposed to be saying and doing and how they should be handling things. And I can never attribute to malice what you can attribute to incompetence, right? So there is a chance in the end that this is not malicious, and there's a chance in the end that, you know, I don't want to give away my conclusions, but there's a chance in the end that maybe they kind of come clean and get at us. All right, so I'll move on to the next kind of point here, which is that I only want to gloss over this because I made the point before. The creator, or I guess, is he CEO? I don't even know what he is. He had been arrested before in Polk County, Florida. He has a criminal background, which I want to say is below the magazine, in my opinion, of red flags. Coupled with all the other ones, it matters. But what you did in 2003, a lot of it was kind of mundane stuff, really doesn't have an impact on what you're doing today. You could be a very different person. You can be a completely changed individual, or it could have just been an overzealous cop back then. I mean, I know some of the stuff was for marijuana, and some of the stuff was for assault and battery. So, you know, we don't know the specifics. There are rumors out there about the specifics that I won't get into, but I just wanted to be clear that I don't think that's a huge red flag, but it is a non-zero amount.
Yeah, and I share the same viewpoint as you. I don't think his past history in jail really has, or was it in jail? I'm not sure, but he was arrested for something.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if he's spending time in jail, but he was definitely arrested.
I don't know. I don't think it's a huge deal. And it turns out that one of those cases, he was actually, I think, defending his sister from someone. So I don't see anything bad about that, and I don't think it has anything to do with what he's doing now. What do you think, Will?
Well, yeah, kind of like what you were saying, where he was defending it. He actually had a YouTube comment on a video. Let's see if I can find it somewhere. But basically, what he was saying was he was talking about how he's defending his sister. There was some domestic violence going on in their house. And, you know, I can't fault him there. You know, he was just kind of protecting her. But
so I haven't seen that YouTube video, but if that were the case, my only thought on that would be that we could all put ourselves in that same position and feel like we would want to defend a loved one.
Yeah.
But
yeah, of course.
But having that, going outside the law to take matters into your own hands to defend somebody that was wronged, that was close to you, may not be a trait that we want in the CEO of a decentralized product while they still have control of it. Craig,
sure, but I guess it depends on the situation, because like if this guy showed up at his house or something and started beating her sister, beating his sister or something, I mean, he didn't really have a choice, right?
The charge was breaking and entering, and then
the charge is breaking and entering.
So
sorry, I didn't read too much into that.
If that's what he said,
yeah,
you know, again, I don't know, but that was it. We can interpret his YouTube comments however we want. I don't want to harp on that, and you know, we'll just go on and say, you know, he had a little bit of a checkered past.
Actually, I think it was on the Vincent Briatore video that he did. I think I remember where it is now.
What was the name of the video?
Real quick. It was the one I think called Substratum CEO is a cat burglar.
It was from this guy named Vincent.
Vincent Briatore. He has a pretty decent audience.
Is a cat burglar. That is the clickbaitiest title ever. I mean, yeah, I'm guilty, but you know, I use caps in my titles on YouTube just because all the research says you have to. But I hate that I do it. I hate myself every day. I click submit. I'm like, no, am I really gonna put scam in capital letters? All right, here we go.
Yeah, but this thing with him and his past arrest record, I never focused really too much on that, and I actually think I never even mentioned that in any of my posts because it just didn't seem important. And there's so many more strange things that they've done lately, so it just never came up.
If we end up having that, we'll play it. We'll play a clip, or maybe I can go grab the clip and insert it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it, it's being inserted right here.
Yeah, I found the comment right here, actually. What he said, basically, he said, Vincent, this is Justin from Substratum. To be clear, I was never a cat burglar, in quotation marks. My sister was sexually assaulted, to which I defended her in the perpetrator's house, and the judge that pleaded down to burglary. Look up the actual definition. This was covered by the Merkel last year. That was 18 years ago. It seems you have had some legal trouble of your own pretty recently, but love the clickbait description. Might want to adjust it since it is slander because it is untruthful. So yeah, wow. he did kind of address it, but kind of like what Brian would say, it's not one of the bigger issues, I guess, and it doesn't really need a lot of light shed to it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a big issue. It's a non-zero, but it's not much. So we'll go on past that. Interesting that he did make a personal attack on the person that posted it, because that will probably come up again, as we'll see later. All right, so let's talk about the NCF partnership. So the National Christian Foundation is they said that they have an exclusive partnership as the cryptocurrency provider for the National Christian Foundation, who does apparently a lot of transactions every year. What do we say to this one?
Yeah, so I think this was back in August, late August, when they have their monthly sub block, which is called. It's just basically each month they have an event where they talk about updates. I guess people are free to go there to watch live. But basically, what Justin said, and this is a quote, like, the National Christian Foundation has, quote, agreed to work with Substratum exclusively for their donations, which to me is like it's like half true, right? The fact that they said exclusively for their donations, he didn't specifically state donations in the form of cryptocurrency. He just stated exclusively for their donations. And in the very next sentence, he says that they process more than 1.5 billion in volume per year. So in that context, it kind of seems like that he's saying CryptoPay will process 1.5 billion per year, because he doesn't say specifically donations in the form of cryptocurrency. He just says exclusively for their donations, and then the next sentence, $1.5 billion per year. So I thought, just from a PR perspective, that was very unprofessional, because I feel like for people like me, for people like Will, for people like you who stay in touch with all of this stuff, like, we know to look into that more, right? But for people who are kind of new, maybe new investors in the space, they see this, they might think like, oh my God, Substratum has this huge thing and they're going to process $1.5 billion per year through their platform. And I think that's a little irresponsible. And just out of interest, I actually looked up how much PayPal does per year, and it's like 7.6 billion. So what Substratum said essentially is this product, which by the way does not exist yet, the NCF has promised to use this exclusively for $1.5 billion in donations, which is 20% of what PayPal does per year.
Well, that's bullish news.
It's very bullish to me. I bought right after that.
Wow.
Oh,
is that when you bought in?
No.
Oh, I was like...
I'm joking. No, this was just like 2 months ago. So after that announcement, because I think this was, correct me if I'm wrong, Will, but I think this was the first time where they actually mentioned who this mysterious partner was for CryptoPay. He was kind of hyping it up a lot before, but I think this subblock was the first time that he actually mentioned it was the NCF.
Yeah, he actually, the first time he announced it was when they announced their product 3 at Subblock. Mm-hmm. He finally gave the name to the partnership. Before that, they just said it was a nonprofit Christian organization, but he went into the specifics.
Like the 8th biggest
eighth
nonprofit
largest
in the States or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so after they made this announcement, I kind of did some research online to see if the NCF has said anything about it, because it seems like a pretty big deal to me, right? If they're going to switch their processing partner to someone for $1.5 billion a year, you would expect them to have some kind of
disclosure
post on their website about it.
Yeah.
But if you search Substratum National Christian Foundation, you can't really find anything. But upon some further digging, I came across a company called Leadership Edge Incorporated, and it's a company that handles donations for the NCF that's non-cash. So if you want to donate like stock, if you want to donate, I don't know, gold or something, like stuff that's just non-cash, it goes through this company. And again, that company had nothing about CryptoPay, because I mean, crypto is something that's non-cash. So if this company was handling non-cash stuff for them, you would expect them to have something about crypto pay. So after all of this, I was kind of like, oh, this feels a bit weird to me. So I sent the NCF an email inquiring about it.
I love this, by the way, that you actually went through these email processes. This is the best kind of research. This is like,
well, you can't deny it. So let me just pull up this email. So this email is from a guy named Brian Grable, and he's the Senior Vice President of Donor Advised Fund Services. And he actually sent me 2 emails. The first one, and I only posted the second one, but the first one just said like, hey, we don't know what crypto pay is. But the second one got into a bit more detail, and apparently quite a few people have emailed and even called them on the phone asking about this crypto pay partnership, because I guess the email specifically says, we have recently received several emails and phone calls related to videos and Reddit streams suggesting that the National Christian Foundation may be entering into the cryptocurrency market. And then later on in the email, it says the NCF does not currently accept crypto. And furthermore, the NCF does not have any exclusive agreement with any cryptocurrency provider.
Okay.
Right. So after that, I kind of got blamed for faking all of this. And some guy on Reddit was like, well, he should post a screenshot of it. So after I posted a screenshot, he's like, oh, he faked this. He should post a text file showing all of the back end email stuff, just to see where it's sent, and then he can like look at the keys and all of that. So I uploaded that, which is like insane to fake, because there's like private key stuff in here that I would not know how to fake the format of. So I uploaded that, and he's like, oh, he could have faked this. We need him to go on YouTube and talk in person so we can see his face talk about this.
I need to look him in the eye.
Right. So that's kind of what happened. And then after that, I think a few days after that, Substratum actually posted a letter of intent from the NCF, which was dated back in June, which is 4 months before me reaching out. So for some reason, they chose not to post it at the time. Instead, they posted it as a response to this whole thing. But the interesting thing is, if you go on their website and you look at this, it's like they could have faked this too. And actually, all they did was copy and paste text into
it's
their
not
blog
even
post.
Exactly.
That was the best part of what I saw there. It wasn't like they screenshotted an email. This is just a string of text on the website.
Yeah.
Which,
so you have to ask yourself, like, if you're trying to prove your point, why just not go all the way? Like this is a consistent theme with them, They go halfway, half truths. And then after they posted that, they said that the NCF would also do some kind of post on their end, which has not happened yet.
So I will give you the response that I got from Christian. Again, I really did. Christian did a good job of talking with me. I liked the fact that he gave me the time of day and didn't just shit all over me like everybody else did. He said it's been addressed, but here it is again. We've been working on partnerships for Substratum and CryptoPay for months now. We have some unofficial partnerships that will never be formally announced, and 2 that we have letters of intent for. The 2 organizations that we have LOIs for have not yet formally announced this, nor should they until CryptoPay is ready for use. With that said, when the announcement was made, the NCF was bombarded with requests for validation, and they did not confirm our LOI. They are not used to crypto FUD. Did this hurt our credibility? Temporarily, yes. but we spoke with them and explained. They will confirm our LOI. It is my understanding that this will be when they are ready to begin use, which is expected later in 2019. We would not have the LOIs on our corporate site if it's not legit.
Right, but they have a history of putting stuff on their website that's not legit, like fake current and past clients. But if that point were true, why announce it on your website and risk this crypto FUD if the opposite party is not prepared to announce it on their end?
So from a pro sub,
make any sense.
Yeah, I agree with you, but from a pro sub standpoint, again, I think we'll see this come up that they may not be completely competent with running a company in some aspects. They may have spoken with somebody who gave them a handshake and said, "Yeah, we're good," and then announced that thinking, "No, it's cool. Like, this is not a big deal," not realizing that, you know, what would happen when everybody was like, "Oh, let's talk about this." Also, they're saying it's going to be confirmed. Now, they're saying it's going to be confirmed post new ICO. But if you trust the team, is this enough of an explanation?
If I trusted the team and I was financially invested into it, I think so.
Yeah, so I've noticed that a couple of these, if you have trust in the team and you believe that they have your best interest at heart, you can look past some of the possible red flags of what it is. So if you think Justin is doing the right thing here and he's telling you guys, don't worry about it, we're going to have that announcement later, you know, they just didn't want to confirm it yet until we had the working product. Okay, I can see that a little bit. But the fact that, again, a lot of these things, explanations, time horizon is post second ICO is very concerning to me.
Right. And one more thing that was concerning to me is, like, if they were so excited for these partnerships, why not just make the post when you get the letter of intent? Why wait until it blows up and then like do it as a response to the FUD? Like, that's not how you generate hype. If they wanted to generate hype, it's like just post it when you get it. But it's like, now this just looks like a bad response. And especially if you consider the fact that my post was backed by a screenshot and also proof that the email was actually sent. So I was like, if you wanted to match like the level of FUD with the level of hype, you kind of have to like do the same thing, you know, kind of like prove it. Like, don't just do like a string of words on your blog post, because now people are going to say, like, what if that's fake?
I will say what went through my mind when I saw that. He gave me the link to this, and it's the link to the letter of intent. And of course, this will be in the show notes if you're interested in checking it out for yourself. I was expecting 100% a signed, scanned thing, because when the Tether letter that came from that bank that's a little bit shady that they just started partnering with, they posted at least like a scanned letter of the signature. It was the laziest like slash of line I've ever seen for a signature, and that was funny in and of itself, but at least it was there. This is you know, and because it was signed, they actually there's some legal responsibility there on Tether's end if something were to ever go down. I'm not even sure. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but I'm not even sure that this constitutes anything illegal if this ends up not being true. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I don't, you know, if you're making a claim, it says from National Crypto Foundation to CryptoPay. Is CryptoPay even actually a company, or is it Substratum? I don't know. This may not be something that can legally be held against them later. But if it is, then that is actually a tick in their it's real category. If they could be sued for wrong information on this and they've released it anyways, then at least they have something to lose.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all of that law stuff, but my point of view right now is I wouldn't be surprised if this was true, like if this partnership was real. All of my criticisms, I guess, if you want to call them that, has just been the way that they present them. Not really about like what they are, but about just the method that they choose to to make all of this stuff public. It's like they just didn't think about it. And you can't just say like, oh, but they're a crypto company. They're like new. They raised $13 million. You have to be responsible for that. Like most companies that go the traditional route of funding, before they receive their like first big round, they typically have a proof of concept, or at least like a product that works. And that was true for Facebook. That was true for Instagram. And they didn't receive anywhere close to 13 million for their first round. But like the fact that we have access to this kind of fun, like this fund now, right? You need to be responsible for that. Like you have to act like a company that just received $13 million.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do all of this like
Agreed.
amateur stuff, you know? You need to be held accountable.
I can tell you from being parts of different companies that have had bad things, said about them. I've been in management in poker rooms, and if a ruling goes a bad way for somebody who has a lot of Twitter followers, we have to respond to it. And we've had entire meetings with how to respond to that stuff in an area where it doesn't affect the stock price or the coin price or the company's holdings or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like they talked about this and they thought about this, and this is what they decided on. Why they decided on this, you have to think about maybe signaling theory if you want to know why. But we talk about that when we mention Craig Wright. If there is a very easy way to prove something, for instance, sending a transaction or having somebody from the NCF confirm, and you choose the more difficult way of proving it or the less obvious way of proving it, then it's less likely to be true. So
yeah. Well, now that you said that, I think that's actually a perfect transition into the next topic, which might be the token burn.
Okay, yes, we can talk about the token burn.
Do you want to give an outline of what happened?
So the token burn, we were calling it the pretend burn on the episode. But basically it's not out of the ordinary for projects to burn tokens, right? They will say, "Oh, we're burning this many because of this reason." And they want to increase the kind of the value of the rest of the tokens, do the community a favor, what have you. There's lots of reasons that they would do it. The Substratum has done it twice, and they've done it in a completely non-standard way. There's two ways that you can conduct a coin burn, right? You can do it with a burn function in the code, or you can send them to the 000 wallet, which will effectively burn them. So they didn't do either one. What they did was a little live stream on YouTube, and they were like, "All right, I'm sending it to this wallet. I'm totally ripping up the private keys right here. All right, and it's gone." Hey. I've seen David Blaine do some shit on TV that wouldn't even require anywhere near that expertise. But yeah, so they did it in a very strange way, which maybe they thought it was more fun to get the community hyped, amped. And given that they have the ability to mint as many tokens as they want, which we'll get to later, it is a little less nefarious than I originally thought, but still, they chose to go about it this way instead of any other way. So what else do we know about this? What am I missing? And I do have a response from the team as far as what they have accomplished afterwards.
Sure. Do you want to give your opinion first, Will, and then I'll come after?
Yeah, I was just going to say something small about it. I mean, it's pretty much a common practice to send it to a zero address. When you have going back to what you were saying about them being inexperienced, I think it shows, especially with this token burn, that not sending it to a zero address when it's commonplace, I don't really think that highlights a good thing or a good public image for them. But
it's kind of step one, right? Like you can Google that. Yeah. How do I burn tokens? I feel like there's got to be an answer.
I know.
Yeah, so I have a similar perspective, and like you said, tokens can be burned via the burn function, which is not in their smart contract, or it can be sent to the zero address, which actually in itself, it's not a special address, but it's just somewhere where the community has formed sort of a consensus, I guess, that like this is the place where you send tokens to be burnt. And if you send it here, then we will trust you that it's burned. Because like a token burn, by definition, requires some sort of trust, right? And as a crypto company, which like this whole industry was founded on the concept of trustless, right? Like a trustless concept. Like since this process of a token burn like requires trust, your job is to reduce the amount of trust as much as possible. And to do that, you do it the way that everyone does it. And I just feel like I don't have a crypto company. Even I know how to do the coin burn. So how can a room full of people who supposedly are very experienced at what they're doing, like, why would they think that this is appropriate? And they even made a video about the token burn where they announced that they sent it to a wallet with no private key, which, by the way, there's no wallet with no
I'd also like to say something else about that video.
Yeah.
If you look carefully at it, you can actually see the private key is scrubbed off.
It's blurred. It's blurred.
Yeah, it's blurred, you know, so obviously they still have some kind of access to that.
It was blurred in post-production, which means you have to have even more trust that the people who blurred that out, they don't have a raw copy somewhere. Like, did someone on the team do that?
Wow.
Did Justin blur it out himself? Did I think like the guy who does all of their videos, his name is Jason or something. Like, did Jason do it? Can we trust Jason? Can we trust Justin? Did Christian do it? Can we trust Christian? It's like, you can have a burn party. Like, that's great. But you can also just do it the right way in the burn party. Just send it to the zero address. It's much less work. You don't have to go through, like, create a wallet, which, by the way, the first time that he tried it, he actually forgot the password, so he made a second one. So it's all of this extra work. It's all this extra work that does not have to be done.
Well, that's how you know it's for reals.
Right, but it's like you do all this extra work, and what do you get out of it? You get mistrust.
Yes.
Right? So why go through all of that and introduce the concept of mistrust into this whole thing? And my whole perspective on it, I don't expect them to have access to those coins, you know? Because if even one sub was transferred from there, it's the end of their project. So I don't expect them to do that. But at the same time, you have to think about, like, how many people had access to the unblurred raw content. And the second question is, like, why did they do it this way in the first place? Like, is it because they're incompetent? And if it is because they're incompetent, like, you have to seriously think about, like, if they can't even do that right, how are they going to build a blockchain, you know?
Exactly.
So I will do, even though this isn't supposed to be, I'm supposed to be pro sub, I will say that I don't think it would be the end of their project, only because it's very easy to have cognitive dissonance about this kind of stuff. So for just based on what you've told me here, if that were to happen, if a coin were moved out of that wallet, they could say, look, we screwed up. We had the private key in editing. Whoever edited the video got a hold of it and they moved the coins.
It's a great loophole.
You know, we'll burn some more. Or they can say somebody brute forced that wallet. And they've clearly been trying for a long time. You know, it's unbelievable that it happened. Very statistically improbable, but it did. Or they can come up with something else like, oh, well, turns out this didn't really happen, but don't worry, we'll put those back. And there could be a lot of different explanations that if you're predisposed to accept the explanation, that you could accept that. Now, the response from the team was to erase any doubt when we implement our new smart contract. This is the smart contract that comes after the second ICO. We will completely burn the 120 million tokens which are already burned in quotation or in parentheses. This will ensure there is no question that we no longer have access to these tokens. This is expected after the close of Amplify ICO. We are on video on record for this. Substratum Burn Party 1, Substratum Burn Party 2. And they are doing a third burn, which is going to be done to the 0x000 wallet. So they've said they're going to do that in the future. So at least they understand, okay, yeah, we kind of screwed this up. My concerns about burning the coins in the next ICO, which were actually kind of alleviated. Originally, I was concerned that, look, if they can actually burn the coins that were in those wallets, what's to stop them from burning the coins in other wallets that they don't like? Is there some way to do that? Because I can't code, so that's where my knowledge kind of ends. And it looks like what they're actually doing is completely replacing the smart contract with new tokens, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a token swap.
Token swap,
okay.
Yeah.
So they're doing a full token swap with a new smart contract, and in the new smart contract, those tokens and those wallets will be gone, is what they're saying. I guess, yeah, if they do a whole token swap again just to screw somebody over, which is I've always thought, you know, whenever they have the ability to do something, you have to think about the worst case scenario. Maybe they don't like a content producer that's posting a video on YouTube that is somewhat negative about their project. And that person happens to hold Substratum. I don't, but maybe I did. I don't know. So, but it does seem like they're at least doing it in a way that can't be replicated. They're saying that the new code will be out of their hands. So they will be releasing control in whatever way they need to do to release control there. And won't have any sort of kill switch left behind that they can have access to. Again, it's a post-ICO thing. So, but if that actually occurs, if all of that happens the way it is, I think it does eliminate the coin burn concerns about this. It doesn't eliminate the concerns about a company choosing to do it this way. But it does eliminate the concern about what happens to those coins when they were put in those wallets.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I mean, again, up until now, I don't think I've actually came out and called them like a straight up scam. All of my posts have just been about their behavior, which I think is even more scary than like, that's the scariest thing, you know, the fact that this even happened. It suggests a level of incompetency, which, well, that's like a whole different topic, but yes.
I actually have something to say regarding manipulation, but it's a little off topic. But
we don't mind getting off topic.
The CEO has had a pretty long history of manipulation. In the earlier days, I think it was actually around Christmas time, he gave a $30 price prediction for his own token to about 4,000 community members. He basically compared...
He did it before Elon made it cool.
Yeah, specifically, he compared Substratum to Ethereum-like trajectory. And also around the same time, coincidentally, he tweeted 20 different tweets and that were pumping his own token. Like, you know, one said, green buy wall and sub. And there's even another one, believe it or not, he posted a picture of his dog recommending his following on Twitter to buy Substratum. You know, I mean,
okay, this is kind of important. What kind of dog was it?
I'm not sure.
Was it like a border collie? I completely.
If it's a Shiba Inu, like, there's some merit there. But any other dog has no space in the crypto space. All right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and just echoing on that point by Will, I do have a few quotes from his tweets here.
Awesome.
So the first one is from Telegram, which I think Will said he made this comment around Christmas time last year, and he said 100x, $30. That's my personal projection for the end of 2018.
Hashtag not financial advice.
Right.
And
right.
Actually going on to that, a lot of the community members, the ones you see throughout Twitter, you know, always retweeting, commenting, they all seem to follow this narrative that he made of $30.
Like,
you know,
the community has used this price prediction as something to strive for. Like, it keeps on coming up, this exact figure.
What is the price today?
$30 is what Justin said. We're going to be there soon. And I mean...
Hold my moon bag. Yeah.
And he did say that it's his personal projection, but at the same time, I feel like if Tim Cook went on
Yeah.
Twitter or something and be like, the price of Apple is gonna go up 10% next week.
We have an actual example.
Right.
Elon Musk did exactly that.
That's manipulation.
Yeah.
And he was fined and required to step down as chairman of the board.
Right.
So
like me and Will kind of pointed this out quite a few times, and the response has also been like, well, Brian, you also do insider trading. And and I was like, well, I mean, we were all caught up in this whole crypto thing like last year, and of course, like I was talking about what coins I like, you know, and I was saying like, oh, I have friends who I trust, like they know this technology and they like say these coins are good. Like I bet we all did some sort of thing like that. But the point of insider trading is like the first word, insider. And I was not an insider at any of these coins.
Yeah, have you worked for any projects?
No.
Okay. Well, have you worked for any projects?
No, I've not.
Okay. We could have got that out of the way in the beginning, but
I should say that I volunteered to be an administrator for Icon for about 2 weeks, and that was just a few months ago. And then after 2 weeks, we all thought like, oh, because like I like to write about all this stuff, and there was some sort of conflict of interest. Like they didn't want me to share all my own posts, and I completely get that. So I stepped down. But during this time, it's like, what insider trading? And I didn't actually work for Icon, you know, I was not on their payroll ever. So like, what insider, like, what am I inside, right? But the opposite can be said for Justin. He's the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
He's the CEO.
So did he say that in like direct response to your post about him saying that and being like, well, you better calm
I think
down?
that was more of the community members kind of bringing up ICX and other tokens just because they know you hold them. You know, I've seen them actually, you know, some people were asking in the Substratum chat about the price of Substratum recently. And I think one of the moderators actually told them to look at the ICX chart.
Well, and I want to be completely clear. My crypto portfolio at the moment is a very small percentage of my net worth. I got out of most of my coins quite a while ago, but that's
thanks.
But that's off topic.
You caused it.
Yeah. So going on with this manipulation talk, like he said that's my personal projection, 100x, $30. And a lot of people have used that since then. You know, like they hold that in their hearts as something to strive for. That's manipulation. And then in the first or second video of the token burns, he specifically says, we're going to burn 60 million tokens tonight, which is going to help to raise the value of your guys' tokens.
Well, that is kind of some of the point of a burn, I guess. What is the? Do you know what the price is today? I haven't even pulled it up, but
it's like 4 cents or 5 cents or something like that.
Dang, all-time high was about what, Brian? 325, I think.
325 or something. But I got memed. Like they made memes about me when I sold at like 190 or something, and they were like, "Don't be like Brian. He sold at 190." Yeah, but he specifically said like we're going to help raise the value of your guys' tokens. He could have said we're going to burn 60 million tokens, which is going to reduce the supply. But what he should not say is to raise the value of you guys' tokens, because value, like it is kind of corresponded to the supply, of course, but it's also like more importantly, like what determines the value of a coin, like based on how crypto is today. It's just like the last price that someone paid for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he should not say it's going to help to raise the value of your guys' tokens. And then in a few different tweets, he just like posts charts, and he's like, the sub chart this week, it's gone up a lot, and there's what's the worst one? Like, yeah.
I wonder if there are other CEOs that post their charts. Like, I mean, I know there's a lot of crypto Twitter pages, crypto YouTube pages that post charts. They draw triangles and make patterns.
Sure.
And I don't know if I've ever seen, like, I don't know, Vitalik tweeting out,
Right.
"Hey, look, got a good signal here."
The projects that I follow, they've never done that. I mean, I guess Charlie Lee with Litecoin, the only thing that he kind of did like that was when he publicly said that he sold his coins, but that's different. But yeah, there's like this screenshot where he uploaded a screenshot of Binance, and it's just like his history, and it all says like sub BTC, and it's just like all of these things that he bought. So he's like screenshotting his purchase history of sub online. And of course, there's the one with the dog. He's like, my dog says Substratum is finding support through all of this drama, and you aren't. And like, why aren't you buying? Like, your dog said that? What does your dog know about crypto?
Oh my gosh!
And how do you talk to your dog?
That sounds like the best advice from Tabby still.
Listen, I talk to my dog all the time. I look at him, I say something, he barks, and I assume that he's responding in the way that I want him to respond to. So
right.
Give me 1 bark to buy sub, 2 barks to make a video about it. All right, here we go.
But actually, going on with manipulation, I had a few examples of some community members. There was one community member. He said, "LOL, I'm not selling. It's all or nothing for me with Substratum. I don't want a boat." He lives in the desert, I guess, and I just don't want to be homeless. So this person's willing to go homeless because of a projection the CEO made. And here's another example. This person said, if Sub was a woman, I would date her. Cash means nothing to me as of yet.
Well, so these could be examples of dogmaticism. They could also be examples of trolls. I don't know. Because I've definitely made some posts that are clearly trolls in my life, where if somebody took them out of context, they would sound either really bad or really stupid. But if you read them in context, it's clear that I'm just trying to make somebody look really bad. And
yeah, but it's hard to deny that there's an established history of, and you can go through their chat to look like this. People keep on bringing it up, like sub is gonna be $30 someday. And why do they use that number? Because someone suggested that number.
Yeah. That might be my least favorite so far and I didn't get to ask Christian about that in particular because I didn't know that one. That one's new to me. So that's bad, and it also gives me the impression that they're really interested in the value of those tokens for reasons, and those reasons may not be altruistic if they're really worried about that value getting high. Now, obviously, there is a fine line between interest being aligned for running a project and having your token value getting high, and your interest being aligned for running a project and having your token value being high so you can sell it and get out. Such a fine line, which is why trust matters so much in this ICO space. We've gone over like all the stuff that I talked about, except for the fact that they're running a second ICO, I think. Have we missed anything that is worth bringing up?
Well, I mean, I'd like to go over just their technology.
Oh, yeah. So here's my pro Substratum point before you get to that.
Yeah.
They do appear to have a working project. Crypto Candor is one of the content producers that I do have a lot of respect for. She covered the fact that they were able to break through a firewall in China, and that's pretty cool. I know accessing Facebook or anything like that there is a big hurdle.
Sure.
So it appears that they have, at least in a beta version, produced on their original promise, which a lot of ICOs can't say. So let kind of prove me wrong.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to say is, generally, firewalls are reactive. They're not proactive. You know, they don't know how to hunt down things that don't exist. You know, so in order to block something, the firewall has to see the traffic first. So in this case, yes, they can go on Facebook in China, in Russia. I forgot what other countries they wrote about, but what people should know is that anyone can set up a VPN of themselves, and as long as that IP is not on the list of blocked ones, they can go in and out. So the issue with traditional VPNs is, and this is often brought up in the sub chat, it's like the way that VPNs work and the way that their packets look. Firewalls can identify them pretty quickly, and that's just because of the way that they go back and forth, and also the kind of composition of their packets. You can spot pretty quickly if you know what you're looking for, like what VPN traffic looks like. And that's the issue with VPNs. And in order to block a VPN, you have to look at it from an external source. So, I mean, of course, you can hack inside the company to get a list of all of the IPs that they have, but that's illegal, I think. But you can look at it from an outside source and see like, oh, this traffic looks like VPN, so I'm going to block, and then people can't use it anymore. And that's why VPN companies, they always have to switch around their IPs and all that. And it's just because those IPs get blocked and they have to find new ones. And the way that Substratum kind of goes around this is they have this thing called masquerading traffic. And what they do is like they make all of the packets look like normal packets. So it look like just, I think Christian Pope one time said this packet looks like it's like from Skype. This one looks like it's from Call of Duty or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
So, and it's just like you can't say that that's Substratum traffic. And that's why at the moment it can't be blocked. But the thing that people are not considering is blocking it from an internal perspective. Because when you set up nodes, those nodes have to connect to different nodes on the network. And if you actually look at the, I think they posted like 4 or 5 of these. Look, we broke through China, we broke through Russia, right? If you look at all of those uploads, like on the screen, they have 4 nodes because they set up 4 nodes and then they route traffic through the 4 nodes. So by definition, and you can see on the screen, that one node knows the IP address of the next node. So if you are a government and you set up a few nodes and it connects to other nodes on the network, you can just make a list of what IPs are on the network and just block those IPs. But the question is China going to care enough about this to do it anytime soon? I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, traditionally, things like VPNs and Tor, they're blocked from externally. Substratum can't be blocked externally if their masquerading works, because you can't really identify their packets. But the beauty of open source software is anyone can download a node and set it up. And I'm not too sure how nodes are going to communicate with other nodes on the network to like if node A, like node A will have to ping node B, right? And there's some sort of way to do that. And I think one of the developers mentioned at one point that they were going to look into a network protocol called gossiping. And what's that? And what that is just like node A will kind of like, hey, I'm a node. And node B will connect to node A. because they know that they're on the same network. And by design, if node B gets blocked, presumably node A will kind of make another signal and try to connect to node C. And if you just keep on doing that, you have a list of IPs of node B, node C, node D, node E, because node A is constantly trying to find nodes on the network. So if you just set up a node of your own and constantly block the nodes that it's connecting to, sooner or later you're going to block all the nodes on the network. And that's something that no one has talked about. But at the same time, if you run Substratum node through their command line, so like not the one that looks nice, just
right, the DOS looking thing, or the terminal,
it shows you the IP address of the node you're connected to, and that has nothing to do with encryption. So I've brought this up before, and a few people in the community are like, well, it's not encrypted yet, blah, 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 blah. But the IP address won't be encrypted. What's encrypted is the package that the node is transferring. And I actually found a not a spreadsheet, but a slideshow on Substratum's website that shows the topology of their network, and it shows like, yes, the data is encrypted, but the IP will have to remain public, right? Because you have to know where to send it to. There's no way to encrypt that.
So to sum it up in a basic way, because we're crypto basic, right now it works, but as soon as somebody decides we're going to stop this, there's a relatively easy path to destruction. Of the network.
Yeah, and because and the whole reason behind that is because this is open source. Anyone can download it and set up a node. And if you're a government inside China, inside Russia, all you have to do is spin up a few nodes. It'll connect to other nodes on the network, and it shows you on the screen what node it's connected to. So you just
that might even be dangerous, depending, because Russia and China do have reasonably authoritarian governments. If they think you're getting around something, that could be bad for you, right?
So that's so that's my next point. At the moment, China is looking to ban people who set up VPNs, right? They're constantly trying to shut down those companies, but there's not that much action against people who use them. But the way that Substratum works is when you set up a node, you can serve or you can consume, which essentially means if you set up a node, you could be classified as a VPN provider. And I feel like that needs to be said, because and they don't put it that way on their website, of course, but I was just thinking, if you're in China and you install this node, and then first of all, your IP is actually public. If someone connects to you, they know it's your IP. And at the same time, the way that this system works is you can also serve and you can also consume. So by serving, it kind of you can argue that you're actually providing some kind of VPN service, and that's illegal in China. So
interesting. So you might, if you're using that in China, you might be just straight up doing something illegal, which this kind of harkens back to me. This is just a random random connection I'm making to when people were using Bitcoin for drugs. They thought it was anonymous, but they didn't realize there was a pseudo anonymity there. So there was a real possibility, as data points were connected, that de-anonymizing people's wallets was or addresses was a thing that could happen, and that's how we ended up with some people kind of going down for that. And now they've moved on to more private coins like a Monero or something like that. So maybe this is kind of a step one. Maybe Substratum kind of sees this. Is this kind of a fatal flaw in the software, or can they apply some sort of baseline encryption to this to solve the problem?
Well, there is encryption, but the problem is the encryption only encrypts the data that it's transmitting, you know? But it doesn't encrypt the actual IP address.
Well, is that possible? Is it possible to encrypt? Like, again, I don't know. I assume you have some coding background because you're talking about technology, or you might not. I don't know. But
I don't have a coding background, but I've talked to quite a few established network infrastructure people about this. And granted, like, I didn't want to take up too much of their time. So I kind of told them about it, and I sent them a link to the white paper. A few of them briefly read through it. The general consensus was just kind of like, this is not possible.
Okay.
On a long-term perspective, of course. Like, it will be possible until someone compiles a list of IPs on the network. And that's easy to do just by, like, you just set up a node. And then you know the IP of the node that you're connected to. And once you block that, the node's going to find a different node to connect to, you know?
Yeah, actually, adding on to what Brian said, really and truly, there's nothing stopping a government just from setting up a few nodes to do a reverse IP discovery. I mean, the only way I guess they could get around this would be if they launched with billions of users on day one.
Yeah. And even then, it would just be a matter of time.
Yeah.
Would you be able to combine? I wonder if you could combine the two technologies, both VPN and this, or maybe I guess they would identify the VPN anyway.
It's been marketed as a VPN-less VPN. I think that's what they've called it, Brian.
Yeah, they call it a VPN-less VPN, which I actually don't understand the concept of that.
Well, I guess they're using different technology to accomplish just theoretically the same thing. That could be what they're getting at. So this is a pretty big strike, but again, they're still in a beta situation. Have they responded to that kind of allegation that it could be discovered?
I
know at this point they hate you, so
I've brought this up a few times, but it's never taken seriously just because of who it's coming from, I think. And another big thing that has been brought up quite a few times, and this is about their second product, Substratum Host, which is essentially decentralized web hosting. A lot of people had questions about how Substratum Host would host dynamic websites. So static sites just use HTML, JS, and CSS. Dynamic websites, which most websites you see on the internet are dynamic websites. So that would be like WordPress or Joomla or Magento, Drupal, anything that uses PHP, which is almost everything nowadays. There was a problem, like people were asking, like, how are you going to distribute a dynamic website, right? Because when you go to a WordPress site, each time you go there, stuff is being created in real time, you know? And that's how you can have things where it says like, hi, Bob, this is your cart. And if someone else goes on that site, it's like, hi, Charles, like, this is your cart. So it can be different depending on who sees the site. And people were like, wait, how are you going to distribute like a PHP site? Because that would have to require all the nodes on the network who hold pieces of the site to kind of work together to execute the code in exactly the right time. And like, you can't really factor in latency, because like, what if one node is down, but that node had that part, you know? So now the site won't render. And so many people had questions about that. Like, if you just search for Substratum host PHP, like, there's at least 15 threads about it. And every single time, someone just responds with, it will be supported.
Okay.
But then, like, you dig into it a bit more, and it almost seems like what Substratum host will be is Substratum itself will host the websites on their servers. And then the nodes on the network will essentially act as a content delivery network like Cloudflare, where, you know, the node closest to you might send that website to you. But the node itself isn't specifically holding the data of your website, which I feel like that's what it was marketed to be.
Yeah, that doesn't sound a whole lot different from Web 2.0 to me. That's not decentralized. That's
No, it's not.
okay. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
so that was just like another thing that people never received any kind of confirmation on, and of course I didn't expect them to completely outline how they were going to do it. But it's like when so many people ask, maybe you should just kind of give an outline, you know, of how you plan to do that, because it's true. Like so many people have tried to decentralized PHP and the underlying database software, but it's like no one really has done that at scale, and not sure if it's actually even possible, or if it is possible, if it would be such a performance hit that no one would use it. So that's like a big deal, because
Right,
30%
even using
of the
Tor
websites
is
use
like
WordPress.
Tor drags on. It's so slow when you load up a Tor browser.
Yeah, so that was just like another example of them not really giving the technical info. And they've been working on a technical yellow paper for how many months now? I don't know. Like,
It's at least 2 or 3, I think.
yeah,
They announced it pretty recently.
yeah.
Well,
So maybe we'll get more info with that, but
yeah, this
We'll
is
have
a
to
work
see.
in progress. Like I said, if we're going to give them a grade on how far along they are versus how far along random X or Y ICO is, they seem further. They seem further along than, I don't know, Engine or anything like that. Like there's a beta that's doing what they said it was going to do. It may not be doing it in the right way. It may not be doing it in a sustainable fashion. But ideally, you like to think that a group capable of creating that particular product might be capable of improving it to the point where it can be scalable.
maybe. But at the same time, it's like if you go to China, you can just, if you're kind of a technical person yourself, you can set up your own VPN at it. Just like anyone can do that. So I feel like, I don't know. Anyone can
It
do
just
that,
almost
really.
it almost gets to the point where you kind of think, do you really need a token to use it for bypassing censorship?
That's true. That's true. That's true.
That's
I
a
mean,
big.
there's not really a lot of details on monetization yet. I know their model is, I guess, for lack of a better term, up in the air.
Right.
Kind of.
Well,
Monetization
and I
is
just want to
coming.
like quickly say that Substratum actually doesn't use blockchain, right?
Oh wait, their new so I mean they're using Ethereum, but their software doesn't use blockchain at all.
Yeah.
No.
The only thing that uses blockchain will be their new Amplify exchange, which they're building their own bridge chain. But Substratum node does not use blockchain though. The only thing that is kind of like can be construed as blockchain is payouts. So they're just using the sub token for payouts, which, so it's just like a payment method. So I don't know why it has to exist. And supposedly you can stake it to earn more. But as a whole, I feel like Substratum node doesn't require blockchain, because you actually don't need sub to run a node.
I agree.
I would say that is true of a lot of ICOs. We have a lot of issues with a lot of the tokens that come out. It did this need to be its own token? And the answer
Sure.
is almost always no, but that it is a convenient way for raising funds or raising
Yeah.
funds again.
Right.
So
That's true.
let's talk about basically the last big point. Their second ICO. They're running a second ICO for this decentralized exchange. and I am going to talk about what the team said, and then we can just kind of, talk about what we think about a second ICO. We missed the mint function. Sorry, before we talk about the second ICO.
Oh yeah.
There was an ability for them to make as many tokens as they want via the mint function. It doesn't even have to be the same way that Oyster did it, where they actually have to pay all kinds of gas and Ethereum, like as if they're buying the ICO.
Right.
So this one is 100%. They can just create it out of thin air. It exists. It's there. They haven't denied that it's there. They have said it will be a part of the new contract that function is gone. But the new contract, as we know, comes out after the ICO. So pre-ICO, they could, in theory, make as many tokens as they want, which will then be captured by the ICO transfer over. We don't know if they're going to do that, but that's a massive point of trust to have. So they have said that they're being independently audited by QuantStamp. I'm not familiar with QuantStamp, but I do appreciate independent audits. I feel like that needs to happen more in the space. Peer review, independent audits are super important. And if I had independent research on every paper I've ever written or every tweet I've ever published, every single one of them would be different because I'm going to miss something. And if I was writing code, I would miss even more stuff. So yeah, it's super important to have somebody take a look over it. So let me see what they said about their. Do we have any comments on the mint function? Sorry.
There's actually one thing that they don't really hint on, but it's the freeze token function, because there's two functions. That's still going to be enabled. I haven't heard anybody say anything about that.
You know what? I forgot to ask Christian about the freeze. They have the ability to freeze funds.
Yeah.
Which is one of the issues we had with something like Ripple, which even though they can't freeze the XRP tokens, they can freeze the assets on the other sides. A freeze is just something that somebody maybe shouldn't have the power to do. I hope they get rid of it, but if they aren't taking any sort of a stance on that, then you have to know that the Substratum team, again, another point of trust, would have the ability to freeze your tokens. But
right.
If they are completely decentralizing this the way they say they are, I imagine that has to be out of there, right? Because then anybody could initiate the fund. They could do what happened with the parody multi-sig thing, where the guy just like bricked all that Ethereum and had it sit there. So if that freeze function still exists and anyone can call that function, then that's going to be a problem.
Definitely.
Let's see. Let's see. Open source. I got to find where they were talking about the second ICO.
I'll just go off on a point real quick. I find it rather strange, given their current market cap, that they're based on ICO tokenomics. They're trying to raise 3 times their current market cap. They don't have an actual hard cap for their ICO, and typical USD or liquid value known assets. And the only actual hard cap they get for it is in 740 million AMPX tokens.
Which is the total supply that they're selling.
Nearly, yeah. And they're keeping 420 million AMPX for themselves for operational team expenditures.
So they're only releasing what was that, like 15%, 12.5%?
Yeah, their total supply is, I think, 1.2 billion for Amplify.
Yeah.
And
but more like, I think Will's point was they're trying to raise, depending on how the tiers go, they're trying to raise somewhere between 60 million and 100 million dollars.
Wow.
When their actual token market cap is 20 million to 25.
How have they done so far? I just was at a conference where a University of Florida professor, but he provided a bunch of statistics on ICOs and the crowd sales in them, and a massive percentage of the ICOs happen in the first 30 seconds. The purchase of the ICOs happen in the first 30 seconds, which may be skewed by some of those big projects that sold out super quickly. But How have they done so far? I know they started the ICO like last week.
Well, it's still
I
live.
found that.
Yeah.
You want me to go ahead, Brian? Or...
Yeah.
I just found it kind of strange how quick their soft cap was met, especially given the current market conditions. And interestingly enough, maybe 2 or 3 days before they tweeted out that it was met, there was a 20 million sub sell wall on Binance. I'm not going to throw any accusations at that, but I just think it's rather odd, a day or two later, hey, we met our soft cap.
So the whole idea of a soft cap is like, hey, if we pass this soft cap, then we can keep everything after it. So,
right.
So that's the thing to keep in mind.
Okay, so are there statistics on how much they've raised so far? And keeping in mind that this may be a little bit inaccurate by the time you listen to this episode.
I think it's somewhere around 5 million that they've raised so far.
Come on.
I'm not entirely sure.
I was hoping that was going to be like 1. That
5 million was their soft cap, right?
I think it was 1 or 3 million was their soft cap.
1 or 3 million was their soft cap. Oh. Yeah.
So philosophically, from a second ICO standpoint, I want nothing more than this to not be the case and to not work. I'm hoping that this is just like fake, that they're sending it to themselves in order to make themselves look good or something. I don't know, but I really don't want projects who just got wrecked in the markets going out and doing second ICOs because
I know
they bit off more than they could chew when they had 100 million and now they have 10. I understand that they only raised 13 million the first time, but the first time they did that raise, Ethereum was probably like $200.
Yeah.
250. Now, given it's below that now, but they spent a lot of their money to get the project rolling. Ideally, when it was up there in the stratosphere. So yeah, if they've mismanaged their funds and they've ended up with too big of a budget, then that's on them. That's not on the community to bail them out. But
and I think there's some proof behind that, because if you look at their crowd sale wallet, they really didn't start liquidating their ether until I would say like 2 or 3 months ago. Will, would that be accurate?
They liquidated some, but pretty recently, I think up until about a month ago, they were liquidating ETH on a bi-weekly basis.
So the thing to keep in mind here is after their ICO, they actually split up their funds into 25% USD, 25% USDT, 25% Bitcoin, and 25% Ether. So the fact that they're liquidating Ether on a bi-weekly basis, like 1,000 at a time, kind of like in a bear market too, right? Mm-hmm. It kind of suggests that maybe they're out of USD or out of USDT. So why would you be liquidating thousands of Ether in a bear market if you didn't have to, right?
That's such a strange, like, why 25% USDT? Just like,
well, they wanted to hedge it into an asset that wouldn't move up or down so much, which I think is smart. But
was the dollar not good enough?
Right. Well, that's a good point. But then they would have to pay taxes.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. and I won't get started on Tether. The longtime listeners are well aware of our stance on Tether, and basically every stablecoin option is strictly better. So I hope that Tether very slowly, quietly exits the market sooner than later. It's doing a really shitty job of being worth $1. It's like its only job. So
85 cents at one point, right?
I don't know how low it got, but I know that consistently the other coins are higher. So if you go like a true USD, it's like 3 or 4 cents higher. And so if you really think Tether's got the money and they're there, you can go ahead and arbitrage the shit out of it.
Right.
All right. So to the second ICO, they're trying to raise a lot of money. They may have been irresponsible with their funds before this, and many times a scam or a Ponzi scheme or something like that isn't intentional. Many times what will happen in these scenarios, it's a poorly run business that gets ahead of itself and needs to keep robbing Peter to pay Paul, and eventually they run out, and they somewhere in there they twist the knife and they go in the opposite direction. In my poker years, I was part of exposing another Ponzi scheme in the poker community. It was called the Players Poker Championship. They ran a tournament in Aruba with a huge prize pool, 200,000, 150,000. I can't remember how much it was, but they told everybody who made more than 10,000, "Oh, due to Aruba laws, we can't pay you out." And and
What?
now, yeah. And when everybody went back to the United States, they were expecting to get checks from them. Excuses. I found out some information, released it to the community, and very quickly they had charges brought against them. But I knew those guys before that, and I don't think they set out to run a Ponzi scheme. So sometimes it's obvious. BitConnect set out to run a Ponzi scheme. That was not a unintentional destruction. Yeah. They promised you 1% returns on your money every day, which is obviously never possible. And they used a pyramid scheme to get people in. So that was a clear scam from day one. Substratum is, to me, now I'm going to kind of sum this up from what we've talked about. This is going to be like my kind of final verdict. And I really, I'm not going to talk about my final verdict yet, because I forgot about the ad hominem attacks. We got to talk about how the community has treated you. Now, I feel like the listeners that have gotten this far, and I know this is a long episode, if you've gotten this far, you have probably come to the conclusion that these guys have done their research. That this is, they seem like, you guys seem like reasonable people. The community as a whole, and my experience so far, does not seem reasonable, and their attack on me was that we didn't have enough YouTube subscribers to matter. All right. Their attack on you was that, at least one of the ones that this Beowulf dude sent me, the guy who's the moderator of their Telegram, he sent me a screenshot of when you were bullish on Substratum, and he's like, "See, look at this." He's playing both sides of the fence.
Yeah.
You're allowed to change your mind, right? You said right at the beginning of this episode that you owned it, and then at one point you did your research, and you're like, "Holy shit, maybe I should have known this." So,
as far as I know, like, we're all humans here, so humans are allowed to change their mind over time. That's how progress happens in this world. So I don't see why it's a big deal that I changed my mind based on new things that I learned.
I agree with that. Now he sent me a bunch of stuff in a private chat that I guess he wanted me to see, and I had to directly ask him. He sent me a screenshot of a hacker being caught by some authorities, and right after he sent a bunch of crap about you, and I had to ask him, like, "So are you telling me the hacker was Brian?" And he's like, "No." I'm like, "So why did you send that to me?" You were just saying, "Hey, congratulations, we helped find a hacker," and
yeah, I don't know how to hack. I wish I did.
So yeah,
I don't either,
so they take this. So remember when I said before that if somebody took random, like, funny trolly stuff I said out of context, it would be really. He sent me something here that said, "From you, I just want to be rich enough to pay off my student loans, not asking for millions." As if that was some evidence that you were doing something wrong. So there, and I'm sure there's other ones that you have favorites that are some of the other ad hominem attacks that he's put out there. He sent me so much of this stuff. Publishes inflammatory malicious FUD, gets called out for it, apologizes for publishing said FUD, continues to do so. What would you say the validity of that is?
Well, I think when it comes to shilling versus FUD, it all depends on what side you're on. Like, and I mean, the same thing can apply to the chart of Bitcoin as well. If you flip it upside down, you're suddenly very bullish. So it really depends on what side of the fence that you're on, right? Like, if I'm considered a fudster, is that even a word? I don't know. But if I'm considered a fudster, from my perspective, I feel like that I'm shilling the right thing, right? But from their perspective, I'm a fudster, but then I just see them as a shill. So it all depends like what side of the fence you're on. And just speaking about the validity of his claims, it always seems to be taken out of context. For example, like that comment that you just made, I think that was on Reddit, right? Like
yeah, it was a Reddit screenshot where you're talking about Ripple.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with
right. So yes, back then Ripple was a great investment. Like it pumped like crazy, and I legitimately wanted to pay off my student loans.
How dare you want to pay off student loans? What is wrong with you?
I just don't.
You're not allowed to want to make money.
Why that's bad? You know, like we are in this space because like some people care about the tech. I care about the tech, but like most people, right? They're in this space to make money. So if I say like I want to make enough to pay off my student loans, like why is someone trying to use that against me as a bad thing?
Mm-hmm. That doesn't make sense to me. You know, there's a lot here that is very it's very circumstantial at best. Did you apologize for some portion of this at some point?
I think at one point I might have written something about the status of their project or something, and then that ended up being wrong. So I apologized. But shortly after that was when they released their second ICO, and that's when I kind of got back into it. And by then, a lot of different things have happened, and I've looked into it more, like the whole partnership stuff, perhaps the fake front page thing. So yeah.
And has he done any of this to you, Will?
I've had quite a few attacks, to say the least.
He didn't send me any of the ones that he gave you because he knew that. I don't even know how he knew Brian was coming on the show, but
I think I'm on a little better page with him than Brian is. But I've had a couple of legal threats.
Oh.
I had one for defamation of character on a article, and another one for something else. I'm not sure what it was, but I don't think we touched on this, but I feel like it's relevant. Some of the Telegram bans. I noticed on Reddit, there was a post recently. Most of the issues, the mods just ignore it. People like Beowulf, they typically just post price positive and factually inaccurate results. And they don't allow any objectivity within their chat at all. So I guess for them to say that I am slandering them, it's kind of like what Brian was saying earlier. They have a certain mindset, and if you don't live up to that mindset, or you don't engage in price positive factually, you know, or you're just you're not objective and you're just focused on the project, you will basically be called a fudster.
Yeah, and there's this circulating idea that Will and I are being paid by someone.
Yes, yeah. I want to get into that.
That too.
Okay, so here's my thing with the paid fudster crap.
Yeah.
It's not like Substratum has a direct negative correlation with something else. So if you are being paid by somebody, who's paying you? The U.S. government for the dollar to go up against Substratum only? That I don't understand where the benefit is on the other end. Somebody either has to really hate Justin, or they have to have a monetary reason to be paying somebody to make him look bad. And I just don't, it's only negative. When we say bad stuff about projects, we will lose any possible subscribers from that community. We will often get brigades like Substratum did to us, or like they've done to you in the past. So it is more net negative, I think, than net positive. Everybody thinks that you get all these clickbait, tons of things, and all of a sudden an influx of people who just want to love to hate Substratum. It's not really like that, man. Like I could post all the shitty things I want about some of the popularly shitty projects like Tron or Verge or whatever, and we haven't gotten any extra subscribers from it. I promise you.
Yeah.
So that is the paid Fudsters response is a classic head in the sand buried thing. It's similar to what you would see in like U.S. politics, where
It's just a deflection.
One side will be the deep state, one side will be I don't know what the boogeyman is for liberals, but there's always something there. And we've compared some of these projects to religion before on our on cryptocurrency and religion episode that we did, and you see some of the definite things. I also want to point out that Beowulf was not the biggest douche in their chat to me. It was this guy Zach F. He was by far the worst person in there. Beowulf was reasonably neutral, and Christian was reasonably positive, and but the Zach guy and David was half and half. Like in the beginning, he was a dick, and then when he realized somebody was talking to me, he wasn't. But there was the admins of our chat aren't going to be that way to anybody. So and if they were, they wouldn't be admins for very long.
Yeah.
Under any circumstances.
Wanted to point out that after I wrote my first post about Amplify, I think, it actually got circulated around, and there's this like group out there with Justin and a few other Substratum mods, and the order to ban my ass came straight from Justin.
Oh. Okay.
So
that was actually posted on Twitter too.
Yeah.
Screenshots of that.
And in that same kind of conversation, I think Justin also revealed that they had enough interest for Amplify to be a completely private sale. So I'm just
How'd that work out?
Why conduct a public sale if you have enough private interest, right? It's like, oh, we have enough for a private sale. It's not an issue. Ban his ass.
I never did get to give their reason for that. I'm sorry. I got distracted, and I meant to read their explanation for the new ICO.
Oh, okay.
Their explanation was Justin had several versions of products he'd like to see contributed for the good of the crypto community. He decided to push forward with Substratum because eliminating censorship was the closest thing to his heart. It's what he cared the most for, and actually I can sympathize with that. This has not changed. He's been very clear about this. The funds raised in our first ICO were to support Substratum Node, Substratum Host, and CryptoPay. At the time, adding in an exchange to the mix was seen as a 5-year goal, not a 2-year goal. But the further we got into development, the more glaring the need became for a complete ecosystem, not to mention the time it takes to become a fully licensed exchange. If we waited 2 years to start this process, that would put us out 4 years. 4 years in crypto is a long time, especially with all the changes that are coming. We wanted to get ahead of the coming changes. May it also be noted that there are many household name companies that have gone through multiple rounds of funding. This is more normal than most realize. I did a really bad job of being pro sub this whole thing. Like, I was trying to present their side, but
yeah.
It is not even close to the same as a round of VC funding.
Yeah,
there is no percentage being given out of the company here. So, and if there is, you're running some sort of illegal offering.
Right.
So it's just the network, and obviously we see these things as investments, but there is inherent difference between getting a percentage of a company and of a centralized company in a jurisdiction with very clear regulation.
Yeah.
And getting a token on a possible future network.
Right. But it all boils down to you don't have any say in the future of the company.
Right. You get no voting power.
As someone. Right. That's what it all. And I just want to make one point about Amplify. Like I feel like the whole concept from the start is flawed, because their whole concept was to combine the best parts of centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges. And the best part of a decentralized exchange is you hold your own funds, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point of it. They didn't take that into account in order to use Amplify, you will have to transfer your funds to a
No.
Substratum controlled wallet. Yep.
Come on. They're releasing a
Just in-
decentralized exchange where they're going to be controlling the funds?
They are releasing what they are called a hybrid
It's
exchange,
yeah.
which combines the best parts of a decentralized and centralized exchange. But the best part of a decentralized exchange is that you hold your own funds. But Amplify, in order to use it, you're going to have to transfer funds to a wallet that they control. And Justin, he confirmed this in a video like a month or two ago when he was in Singapore, I think. So I just don't understand like how that combines any sort of the best part of a decentralized exchange when the whole point of a decentralized exchange is you keep your own funds.
Is it like a permanent thing, or is this something that they're kind of the custodian that performs the liquidity transfer? Like, is it smart contract that goes through their wallet? Because I can see if they're providing the liquidity of all the different tokens and it goes through them, but they never actually have custody of it.
Well, he specifically said Substratum controlled wallet.
Huh.
So I don't know what that means, but for certain it means it won't be your own wallet.
Yes. if I would be willing to forgive it if it's like an atomic swap situation where they're kind of the middleman only during the execution of the trade process. Still a little
Right.
bit iffy, but a lot of different exchanges work, decentralized exchanges work that way.
I don't think that's the case. I feel like the way that I understand it from their white paper, the decentralized portion is just going to be kind of a redundant copy of the order book that's just distributed across different nodes. I don't know how that's going to work in regards to transactions per second and how the exchanges engine is going to account for latency across different nodes. That's to be determined, but that's the decentralized part. It's just a copy of the book across different nodes.
Wow.
And also Substratum nodes will be used to verify transactions, which kind of puts the performance of the exchange in the hands of global network latency. And the fact that it's a hybrid exchange, it means presumably maybe the decentralized part would slow down the centralized part. So I just don't get the whole point of this project. You know, the whole point of a DEX is to keep your own funds on your own wallet. If you don't have that point, you can't say we're combining the best points of both things.
Binance works just fine. If you want to trust somebody, like we've said this before, we always will preach, keep your own. If you don't have the private keys, it's not your money. But
yeah,
there are some people who don't have the technical know-how to accurately move their funds around and keep them in such a way that they'll have access to them. They'll forget the passwords. They'll use a shitty password, or they'll leave the private key sitting in a Google Doc or something. There are people who are better off keeping their money on exchanges, even though we preach not to do so. And if you're going to, you want to do it on one of the ones that at least have the community trust, or in Coinbase's case, a more heavily regulated situation, or in Binance's case, have just built enough community trust and completely shutting down every hack attempt and everything like that they've been able to do.
Right.
But what we're talking about here is all of that trust and all the shitty execution that comes with a decentralized exchange. Like, I've used Radar Relay. It's got a very nice interface, and I was able to make some trades with Spank Chain tokens, which is hard to do other places. But it was slow. It was annoying. It was like not the greatest thing in the world. I'm happy that I could do it in a decentralized way, but unless they've got a throughput that is more than any other token that we've ever seen before, it's going to be a worse user experience to use that DEX. And if you're not even getting your own custody, and again, I haven't read that white paper, so I don't know. This is just us, BSing based on what we've heard. That would be bad. So
yeah. But I think the speed thing. Oh, Will just disappeared.
All right. Well, we can finish up. We went way over time. I'll wrap. Just tell me what you're telling me about that exchange, and then I'll do my kind of sum it up. And if he pops back in, we can definitely.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like I think the whole speed thing with decentralized exchanges shouldn't really be viewed as a con, because that's the price you pay, right?
Mm-hmm.
For to keep your own funds. And the fact that they just decided that that's not the most important thing to focus on, I don't understand the concept of this exchange, like why it needs to exist, and why they can't focus on doing the first two things first that they wanted to do. Like now they have to focus on three things in three completely different industries. So,
well, they needed more money, which is the end all of this is there needed to be a little bit more money. I'm very scared of what ICOs are going to be doing now that we're in this massive bear market, and this is not necessarily even specifically Substratum. Again, they could be doing this in a very altruistic and not scammy manner. But we are going to see a lot of ICOs fall to the wayside and become essentially pseudo kind of exit scams, but not really. Like they tried, but the price just tanked and they couldn't hold out, and they can't pay anybody with Ethereum. So we're going to see a lot of that on a lot of the lower market cap projects just kind of trickle out and disappear. We're going to see regulation crackdown and a second ICO when we're already in that uncertainty situation, when they already have a community that they're accountable for. An ICO means you're accountable to your community. Like we forgive ICOs that raise things and put out a completely centralized product if they were only gotten by private investors or something like that. But if you raise money for the community, you should be doing things that benefit the community the most. So my summation of what we've talked about today is that this project is very dangerous. This project they have explanations that sound good upon first inspection. They are saying them in the right manner, but we found that they have a time horizon of post second ICO, or they have the requirement of trust in the team, which is something that you're doing in most ICOs that you invest in, to be fair. You have to trust that their team is going to follow through with their word. So do I trust the Substratum team based on what I've seen? No. I do really appreciate the way that that Christian handled this. I feel like he is doing a good job. If there is a scam going on behind the scenes, I don't think he knows about it. But this is... Oh, no.
I just messaged him. I told him that we're wrapping up soon.
Okay. So I wanted him to be able to kind of say where we could find him, but my opinion has not changed. I do believe that this is very likely to be a scam. I don't know that they set out this way. I do see red flag after red flag after red flag, and each one of them could be forgiven in and of itself. Like, we make fun of Walton Chain all the time for that tweet. It's the only red flag that's really come across my desk on Walton Chain. I'm not out here screaming from the rooftop saying, yo, get out of Walton Chain. It's probably not good. And really, if you want to be in Substratum, that's totally up to you. All crypto's risky. So if that's where you want to put your nuggets, and you believe what they're doing and you have trust in them, feel free to do so. But what I see is they've had a bunch of attacks on you. They've had a bunch of attacks on me. They've had a bunch of attacks on anybody who seems to have a problem with this rather than a discourse. And I offered in that last video, I offered very aggressively, anyone from the team that wants to come on this show and argue with me, they're welcome to do so. I did not get taken up on that. The best that they did was talk to me in the Telegram. I'm just... You did your research. You emailed people. They asked for ridiculous proof. You gave it to them, and it didn't matter. That's the thing. You can see the dogmaticism there, and dogmaticism in anything can just be a really bad thing. And you see it in scams. You saw it with BitConnect. You see it in multi-level marketing. You see it with I don't know, like cults. You see it in all kinds of different ways that end up being scams. Vector marketing sales with those knives. I don't know if you ever ran into those people. That there's so much that goes on that doesn't. It may end up being a scam in the end. So this seems like a project that I would not touch with a 10-foot pole, 100-foot pole, 1,000-foot pole, 10-mile long pole, and I really wish they had addressed this stuff in such a way that matters. Now, I will report after that ICO comes out, and these things should have been fixed, the ones that were fixed, because we've now done a whole episode on this. I am absolutely willing to scream from the rooftops, hey, I said that we needed to check in on this and see if they removed the mint function. I said we need to check in and see if they, what are some of the other things? Oh, actually have a partnership with NCF. We need to check in and see if they can still freeze accounts. Like, if these things all start to pop down off, then we may be on the other end of the spectrum, which is that the people handling the PR, the people that maybe Justin shouldn't be the forward-facing image for this company.
Yeah, I think a few people have brought up that point.
There's plenty of companies out there that have IOTA is, even in the crypto project, IOTA is a great example. They have their tech is awesome. Mm-hmm. I have so many concerns when I watch David Sonsobo talk to anyone ever. Just this massive ego, but somebody who has a great project. So I don't know what happens when that's challenged in such a way that the project could be put at risk. That's what scares me with somebody with that big of an ego. So maybe Justin shouldn't be the forward face of this company. Maybe he isn't the person that they should be worshiping. At least with somebody like Justin Sun, he's kind of annoying, but like they're worshiping a guy who seems to understand business.
Yeah.
Tron sucks, but
say what you want about him, but I think he's really good with marketing.
Yeah, great marketer. He's not even doing it properly. He's posting pictures of his dog giving financial advice. So, there could be good intentions here and just incompetence, or there could be something more sinister, or there could be just a lack of caring. This could be something like they just don't mind what we think. They don't care.
Yeah.
And I've seen that before. I've seen people have disdain for the speculators, right? There are projects that are just like, I don't give a shit what the speculators say. I don't care about the price of my coin. I'm working on my tech, so stop asking me about the price. But they haven't taken that adversarial state. They're actively saying, we care about the price.
They're very active.
Here's a chart.
They're quite transparent,
So anyway, we did lose Will in the middle of this while we were talking. I don't know if we edited that out, but... So Brian, if we wanted to follow you on any social media or anything that you're doing, we wanted to check in on some of your research, where would we do that?
I am DecryptoBL on Twitter, and decrypto.net is my website.
Great. Do you do anything other than crypto journalism on the website, or is that just basically?
I mean, I also like to do photography, so I share some of my pictures and just write about a few things that I like. Not 100% related to crypto.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so go check that out if you liked what you heard. I know this is a long episode. Thanks for sticking around for the exciting conclusion. If you're from the Substratum team and you made it this far, I am impressed, because I really have a massive unless you jump to the end, unless somebody told you, hey, go to this timestamp and you can hear him say that he didn't think you were going to listen. This reminds me, I did this thing to a teacher one time when I was in high school where I knew that the teacher would only read the intro and the conclusion of a paper. And I put, somebody else gave me the idea, but I put in the middle, I know you're not reading this. I'm going to prove to you that you're not reading this. I'm going to bring this to you and you're going to feel stupid. Something like that. I was an asshole in high school, so not that I'm not now, but I was even worse then. And I went up and showed the teacher, which they didn't change my grade, but I said you need to give me an A on this paper because you clearly didn't read it. And they're like, no, I should give you a worse grade because that's not what the writing assignment was. I'm like, all right. Anyway, so yeah, if you're a Substratum team, you made it to the end. Congratulations. I need to now put on our normal disclaimer. We are not financial advisors. Anything you heard here is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research. Your own research is key. everything that we've stated in here is going to be in the show notes. The links, the articles, the videos, this is all public information. The only thing that I can say that we were at least a little bit kind of spitballing on was what their decentralized exchange is going to look like, because that's a new product that's not out there. That was not. So if you're making your decision, to factor that out. But the rest of this is all very specific, hard evidence, quotes from the team, screenshots of chats, everything. It's all there. So if you still want to invest in Substratum after all of that, 100% on you. I'm glad we were able to help you do your own research, and thanks for watching the channel. Like I said, like I always say, we're idiots. So that's it. Do you know Will's social media or any of his stuff that you could plug for him since he disappeared?
Give me one second. But while I am searching for Will, I want to have my disclaimer. I just want to say I'm not a paid fudster. But if you are listening to this and you would like to pay for my FUD, we can definitely talk about it. And William McKenzie is at WBM_97 on Twitter.
All right, WBM_97 on Twitter. And I'm certain I'm going to be among the banned people in the chat now. I don't know if they expected to change my mind with what they said. They asked me to come join their sublocks. I will probably be reaching out to you in about a month and saying, hey, let's do a little follow-up on what happened with this ICO, because you're going to know so much more about it than me.
Yeah, I would be happy to do a follow-up in the future. And maybe I'll change my mind again, because we are allowed to do that.
It turns out you are absolutely allowed to change your mind. If I can't even list on one hand the amount of coins I've changed my mind on. Bitcoin is one of them. I mean, I was not. It was 0% of my portfolio at one point. It isn't any longer, but I looked at Bitcoin. I saw everything seemingly having better tech, and I didn't understand the network effect and how much that mattered, and I turned around on that. So there is very clear. It's okay to change your mind.
Yep, agreed.
So that can't be used against you in a court of law. All right. So this might be the longest episode of the Crypto Basic podcast of all time. So thank you for being a part of that. I didn't mean for that to happen, but you guys had so much information. I just wanted it to get out there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks for having me. We'll catch up soon.
All right. Thanks for listening. Join our Discord.